The Democratic candidates feeling the pressure to offer their own vision on what is sure to be a major 2020 policy issue: immigration. President Trump continuing to play up a crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border, where Customs and Border Protection agents are patrolling nonstop. Michael Shure, our senior national correspondent, just wrapped up a trip to the border where he got raw access to those border agents. Michael, what did you learn from your experience?
Well, you know, you learn so much, Eric, by spending just a day down there. I mean, so much happens, and it's so unpredictable. And there are lives that are intertwined between people on either side of the border. There's a familiarity that the agents have with the people that they're working with on the other side, their familiarity with the different agencies along the border. But one thing I think that really underscored everything that we saw when we were down there is just how uncertain how much uncertainty there is on both sides of that border.
It is a tale of two countries and one government agency on the border between the United States and Mexico. A U.S. Customs and Border Protection agent spends most of their day patrolling a stretch like this, a few clicks west of El Paso, Texas, near the Santa Teresa border entry in New Mexico.
Just like any law enforcement, you can't predict it. And that's the fun part about law enforcement, is every day is different.
Fidel Baca is a veteran CBP officer covering the El Paso sector. He has seen more than just the fences change along this border.
These days, it can be predicted that we're going to have a lot of people that we arrest just basically turning themselves into us.
And that's just what we saw as we rode along with Officer Baca, as a group of 7 people from Central America casually crossed the border to await their fate.
¿Y por cuánto tiempo estuviste en México viajando?
I asked arriving Guatemalan migrant Douglas Alvarado how long he'd been in Mexico. He said a month. And why he came? He told me it was violence and the fact that there were no jobs. When asked what he was going to do in the United States, he said, work. For Baca, though, the job itself remains the same.
We still have to make the arrest because they entered the country illegally, regardless of what they claim after the fact.
We also saw 2 minors from Honduras crossing alone, and even a Brazilian family.
They are going to be in their custody a few days. That we have to afford hot meals for them, showers for them, give them the ability to change clothing. So all that takes manpower.
And that's where the politics come in, with an American president fixated on a national emergency. Silvestre Reyes represented El Paso in Congress for 16 years.
Today we've got more than 23,000 officers. We've got a national budget of over 10 times what we had back then.
Reyes, who once served here as chief of Border Patrol, disputes the idea that things are dire.
I definitely sympathize with my former colleagues that they've got a tough situation of trying to maintain their credibility while at the same time trying to give the impression that somehow we've got a national emergency on our collective hands.
The former congressman believes that a fence works in some spots, but that the terrain is the best border.
You really waste our taxpayers' money putting this kind of a fence in an area where the desert actually takes care of it, and you can respond by monitoring it with drones, with cameras, with sensors, with officers.
There are many protagonists along this border. We met attorney Amanda Skinner as she stood in Mexico, feet from us, yet a world away.
And I'm here visiting one of my clients' families. He's been arrested for coming into the United States without permission and is looking at a pretty long sentence, about 2 years. And so we're trying to get him home to his family faster. And to do that, sometimes it's helpful to come over to Juarez, take some video of the area that your client lives.
Every case is different for these immigration lawyers.
So we're hoping that by sharing some of that information with the judge, perhaps the judge would consider a lower sentence.
And every case is also different for the Border Patrol.
We are not dealing with just those folks, okay? We are still dealing with those people that want to enter the United States without being caught. Why? Because they're previous felons. They're coming in here with bad intentions, so they don't want to be caught.
But there may be more to that story.
What they are not telling you, there is a formal policy of the United States at the ports of entry that is rejecting people trying to come legally into this country.
Fernando Garcia is the founder of Border Network for Human Rights. He says that the entire situation is born out of this policy.
So what they couldn't do legally, now they are doing it like that. And then you have the administration saying, we have an invasion, we have a legal crisis like never before. It's because they had manufactured this aspect of the crossing of asylum seekers.
Being on this small stretch of a nearly 2,000-mile border with Mexico every day provides a perspective far different from that in D.C.
Historically, the farther away you are from the border, the more chaotic looks like. I mean, you need to come to the border to understand what is happening in our communities. And what you will find, for example, is that El Paso is the safest city in the nation, safer than Washington, D.C.
And, as often happens north of the border, the CBP gets the last word.
I believe the El Paso Sector Border Patrol, are we overwhelmed right now? We are, but however, we're still getting the job done.
Michael Shure, I-24 News, Sunland Park, New Mexico.